Thank you so much, everyone, for having us here. First of all, I want to say that it's a real honor for me. It's a pleasure to be on the same stage with Eli and Akshat because it's the two legends from our industry. And I will leave you to introduce yourself to do it in a few words. Then we go for a very interesting.
My name is Eli Ben Sasson. I used to be a mathematician, but hear me? One, two, three. Yeah, okay. I used to be a mathematician. I worked on zero knowledge proof. I invented a lot of the ZK that is used today in practice, co-founded Zcash, and then StarkWare, and today I'm CEO of StarkWare.
My name is Akshat Vaidya. I'm a co-founder of Maelstrom, which is the family office of Arthur Hayes, who is the founder of BitMEX, the first perps exchange in crypto.
Very nice. So we have two different angles today. I do believe that both of you gentlemen, you have a very sophisticated experience in both investments and technologies, but at the same time, Akshat, you more on the investment side, right? And Eli, you are more on the technology, on the cryptography, on the science, let's say, angle of the industry, right? So we're gonna have both questions and both angles, right? So my first question will be, which real-world domains are guaranteed to adopt ZK first? Will it be governments, AI, finance, or enterprises? And who is underestimated right now in this space?
Yeah, look, I mean, from the side of the investor perspective, and very much the non-technical um, angle by which you view privacy coins, a retail first phenomenon, whereby similar to Bitcoin, the adoption of Bitcoin 15 years ago or so, it starts with an ideological reason to hold it. The ideological reason becomes a practical reason. Practical becomes a business reason. So it's kind of, from our perspective, we see a very similar arc.
Interesting.
I, so, okay, I get to see a lot of the startups in the ZK space. I think what we're seeing right now, a lot of identity-based stuff, because like with ZK, you can do more. You have better identity verification using ZK. For instance, I can prove that I'm over 21 and can drink without revealing any other information, which is something that's going to be very hard to do by other means. I can prove with zero knowledge that I repaid all of my loans and it was over a certain amount without revealing any of my financial information. So, like, we see a lot of startups in the area of identity checking, and more recently also AI, where have things, has the data been procured correctly, has it been processed correctly? So I would say identity and AI are the two new domains that will of course join the first place where ZK made a huge impact, which is of course blockchain.
Interesting. So what we can see that, of course, as Akshat you mentioned, that's probably the first kind of point of attention to ZK was a few years ago, and now, how do you see what is the right moment when investors finally realize that ZK is not just a crypto niche, but the verification layer for, as Eli mentioned, AI, supply chains, uh, finance, and other state systems.
Yeah, so we see it from, we're a liquid trading shop as well. We have a VC arm, we have liquid trading, and now we're entering the private equity space as well. From the trading perspective, the amount of the number of benefits from privacy first transactions are innumerable, right? It's very easy to, especially on decentralized finance, take advantage of the lack of privacy that we have now. And that's for us one of the most obvious low hanging fruit opportunities for ZK and privacy in general, given that it's already on chain, retail already cares about this. There's already ways to take advantage of it and exploit opportunities from the lack thereof. So that's the first place that we see it and actually use it ourselves.
I want to say that so as I said, I co-founded two of the most important ZK-based chains out there. Zcash was the first. We launched it at the end of 2015. It's been now almost 10 or probably 11 years. whatever. I'm
No,
mixing
no, it's
myself up.
okay.
About 10 years ago, it was very interesting. Like it took a very long time for the world to start caring about it, but like over the past half year, it's been like on everyone's mind. Privacy is really important. There are good applications to use with it, and Zcash is a good example of that. With StarkNet, what we did is show basically the power to scale alongside with privacy and do it in a way that is also post-quantum secure. So StarkNet right now, our mission is to expand the Bitcoin economy, which means that you can generate yield on BTC by staking on it. You can, of course, generate yield for STRK, which is the native token for StarkNet on it. We're going to have a lot of tokenomics mechanisms that drive more value towards the STRK token based on the expanding Bitcoin economy that is emerging on StarkNet. And down the line in 2026, we're going to focus on adding regulated privacy, which means the stuff I did with Zcash led to a very, very high grade of privacy, but one that is then for certain regulatory regimes, it's a bit hard to deal with. What we're going to do with StarkNet is offer a different flavor of privacy. First of all, it's going to be post-quantum secure, going to be tied directly to both Bitcoin and to stable coins, and it will be a kind of privacy that comes with needed infrastructure, things like viewing keys and other stuff that will allow regulatory scrutiny at the time when it's needed. So it will be very innovative, have very good UX, very high speed, and be post-quantum secure and also regulatorily compliant. So I'd say those are the two, I think big things that, I was involved in and I think are very exciting. Both Zcash and StarkNet are receiving a lot of attention in mindshare, and I think rightly so. The time of this technology has definitely come.
So I actually have a follow-up question, Eli. So as an investor, right, that's always been one of the key questions is, okay, how do we back something that regulators at least ostensibly seem like they would oppose? How do you balance this from your perspective? How do you tell the story to both sides, that those who care about privacy and those who prefer less privacy, which is the regulators?
That's a terrific question, and right now, so my team is grappling exactly with this as we're building the privacy layer on StarkNet. I will say this, that it is very important for us to allow a whole spectrum for like application developers to choose from. So at the protocol level, there will be ways for those who build protocols to offer various viewing keys so that they can be regulatorily compliant or allow regulators when needed to view more about what is going on. That is the route that we're going to be choosing with StarkNet. Zcash, initially, there was basically, it was like, pure privacy, which means that no one gets to see anything but the payer and the payee. But then there came a version where there's also viewing keys that allow the spender to, at their discretion, to allow someone to see it. With StarkNet, we're going to go one step further, which is to embed the viewing at the operator level, which means that even in some cases, even if the operator, when asked by a regulator to reveal certain information, can be able to do so. And again, it's sort of this spectrum that we think that this seems to us a better fit for the likes of payment networks, the Visas, the banks of the world. I think this is a version they would prefer. And you can choose. At Zcash, you can have that kind of privacy. It's going to be harder for exchanges to accept it. Certain banks won't accept it, and you can have the StarkNet version, which will be all consumers will have protection from, and businesses will have protection from other businesses knowing what they're doing, but the various operators will be able, under certain circumstances, to know what is going on.
Got it. Okay, so hearing your broader point that it's not so binary of privacy, no privacy. There's a whole spectrum in the middle.
Yes, and it is something that different implementations are going to pick different points.
Right, cool.
And I believe that government support is also important for the adoption, for the mass adoption. So my next question, actually, I want to ask more specifically about, from the investor point of view, do you think that we need to continue to invest to the infrastructure of the zero-knowledge proofs, or we have exactly the time when we have more applications and more interesting projects already built on top of it? And Eli, for you, it's more like, from the ecosystem builder kind of point of view. So do you think that it's going to be a blast of like majority like these kind of applications to appear soon?
I want to take this first. I'll say we spend so Starknet is an infrastructure layer. It's a little bit like Ethereum or Solana. It's like its token basically does governance and operating and gets revenues from staking fees and from transaction fees. And then we have users when they come to a network, they usually care about the applications, and we have great applications. 3 of the top 10 perps exchanges are built on my technology. But users are going to come and use applications. Okay, so now a challenge for all chains. Ethereum has not been able to solve this, and we want to innovate on that as well. Is how do you make sure that success is sort of shared across both the infrastructure and the application layer? So we took inspiration from the Keiretsu model of Japan from the second half of the 20th century, where basically different counterparties sort of got vested interest in others, and my team, specifically my brilliant CPO Aviu and our leading scientist Noam, have been working on a model that will release where basically there's interflow of revenue and fees between successful applications and the Starknet base layer, so that as one rise, all rise, and that is going to be our solution to this very important question of what should you invest in, the base layer or the application, and how do you make them all aligned?
Yeah, I think I echo that perspective broadly, and that we're kind of from the investor perspective, we're waiting to see how fees flow from the top down to through the infrastructure stack, from the initial application layer down, and what percentage of that will flow towards the privacy realm versus the non-privacy realm. And a lot of that is just like a function of technical decisions, but also business decisions on how the tokenomics functions. So it's still kind of early. We are speculatively accumulating quite a bit on the privacy side of things. We've done that somewhat publicly and privately over the past year. And we're very excited to see how that percolates and fleshes out into the rest of the infrastructure stack above it.
Interesting. Because just my personal experience, a year ago, it was the huge spike in the interest to the ZK. But then, of course, it goes a little bit down, and we see some different narratives. But during that time, me and my team, we've been researching ZK quite deeply, and we saw so many use cases for zero knowledge proofs outside of crypto, outside of like Web3, how we call it, right? And what is your take? How do you see what's the bottlenecks right now? So are we waiting for some kind of scientific solutions, or that's exactly the, let's say, curve for people to learn about it, to start adopting, for the governments to get like certain approvals, or what's the exact bottleneck for all this technology to become the massively used?
Yeah, I can't speak to any technical bottlenecks, but I think for us, we just haven't seen enough like BD effort between protocols that are application layers. So like look at Athena, for example. It's one of our most successful portfolio companies. On either side, Athena or privacy infrastructure companies, we haven't seen much interaction and much integration in the same way that we have with Athena and other parts of the infrastructure stack. So I think from our perspective, we just see it as like it's a timing thing, maybe it's a regulatory thing, maybe it's a lack of retail interest thing. Not exactly sure, but maybe Ellie, you have a broader perspective.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think right now. So okay, as I said, I get to see a lot of proposed deals about ZK, and over the years, people ask me about ZK hardware. I was very bearish on that. I think we're not there yet, just because you can get very, very high throughput with ZK just on standard CPUs. And okay, so I think that the big bottleneck and the thing we are working on right now to unlock and solve has to do with the following thing. So a lot of people talk about what's called client-side proving, which means that your smartphone, let's say when you do a Zcash transaction, your smartphone is going to generate one of these ZK proofs. And in terms of UX, first of all, your phone is going to heat up. It's going to take 5 to 10 seconds or maybe even more. and in terms of like your user experience, it's not going to be great. So the question is, what do you do about that? Now, I don't think the solution is to build better hardware or stuff like that. I think the solution, and that's what we're working on right now, goes with what we call operator side proving, which looks a little bit like this. When you generate a transaction, it is just a standard transaction, no ZK. But then your wallet or your application submits it to a small pool that the operator is doing. So if you're using Athena, you would submit it to Athena. Or if you're using a Kubo, which is an AMM on StarkNet, you would submit it to a Kubo and so on and so forth. Or your wallet would do this. And then what you would have is you would have Athena or a Kubo or one of these generate a ZK proof for the transactions that it received. Now, why is this a breakthrough? Because from the user's point of view, you have the same UX you have today. Nothing changes, but you get privacy. And then the larger these operators, if we provide them with the stack to be able to generate these proofs, which we are going to do, they have no problem buying a space on a server and generating one of these proofs efficiently, and you get this ideal mix of privacy, good UX, and efficiency. So I think this will be a huge unlock and empowerment of these protocols, because something like Athena now basically gets to see everything, shield its users from other users and other businesses, and give them the same UX they are expecting today.
Right. So take into account the, let's say, time-wise, right? We still kind of like, but some people believe we are in the cycles, right? If we talk about Web3, Bitcoin cycle, this 4-year cycle and stuff like that. First of all, do you still believe it in this cycle, or we're already out of it totally? So that's a small question first.
Yeah.
And second, do you think that zero knowledge proofs at the vertical, still let's say related to the crypto, is also very binded to it, very connected to it, or it has very different cycles?
Yeah. So I think that this industry used to just be a single asset industry, so to speak. It was just Bitcoin. At that point in time, it was extremely cyclical with certain events that happened in macro as well as within the industry. When smart contracts became a thing after 2016, 2017 timeframe, there became kind of like two different realms. They were generally speaking in tandem with each other in terms of cyclicality, but you're starting to see some of that decouple. And then now you've got a whole plethora of different types of sub-industries within the crypto space. For example, DePIN. And I think you're going to see that completely decouple from the more speculative side of crypto over time. So I don't really believe in the 4-year cycle, kind of like crypto bro astrology, but there is cyclicality to our space, and there are going to be multiple different timelines running in parallel. Let's answer the short question. The bigger question for us, we're just looking as investors. When we look at ZK or any other technology, we just care about one thing: fees. So our fees being generated by this protocol, and then our fees being shared with users, right? There's kind of like two very simple things. So an asset class, an asset that is generating a lot of fees, okay, fine, but can users participate? That kind of defines the network effects of how the token or whatever will do. If the protocol is passing through everything to users but doesn't generate fees, then it's also not really useful for us as investors. You kind of capture both. You have like some kind of product market fit combined with actually generating fees and passing on fees to end users. Then that's where we can come in early and try to find that something that's piped really well like that, and help it grow and mature with the rest of the industry.
So what I've been noticing, I co-founded Zcash and StarkNet, and I've obviously been following each one of these and their tokens and what's been going on ever since, and they're dear to my heart. What I'm going to say is certainly not investment advice, but in terms of like cycles and patterns. So for a very long time, it would be like this, Bitcoin does a small move, like Bitcoin sneezes, everyone else gets a cold. And as of roughly 2 months ago, at least I noticed empirically, and you can look at the charts and see, both for the ZEC token and for STRK and a few others, what you see is like so both for Zcash and for Starknet, you see that they're more going together and not going with Bitcoin, which is to me a very pleasant surprise. But I have no idea what it indicates towards the future. If anything, I would say that this is, in terms of cycles, there is again an appreciation for core infrastructure. There's a realization that like ZK infrastructure is something of value, and that I think is very good.
Very interesting. So, gentlemen, we have the last question. I think just 1 minute or something like that. Let's look in the future. 5 years from now, 2030, if ZK zero knowledge proofs truly succeeds with the adoption, which industry or regions go first?
I think deepen is a category that I'm super bullish on in the next decade. Probably not next 1 year, 2 years, not like a 30, 40-year horizon, but like about a decade. Obviously consumer applications of stuff is larger than the use cases of crypto so far. So I think that my prediction is like in 10 years, deepen alone will be larger than all of crypto today, inclusive of deepen today. If privacy can underpin that, then we have a game-changing environment.
I think 5 years out, there's a rebalance of power between you and me and everyone, individuals owning their life and being sovereign over their reputation, their credit history, their identity. There's less of this needing to ask for authorization from a central, bank or party, and there's more, oh, okay, I go and I generate it on my wallet. I think that will be the biggest thing. So you own your life. That's what ZK is going to allow all of us to have.
Very good. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think we're already out of time, and give a warm applause to our guest today. It's a very good conversation. Thank you so much.